Hello, lovely women. Welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to discuss the 10 things you may be doing daily that are blocking your period from coming back. We're going to discuss 10 examples of what is stopping you from feeling vital to possibly getting pregnant and getting your period back. So stick with me till the end because I'm going to give you plenty of examples. And at the end of this video, I really would like you to write down on a piece of paper where you're going to start, things that you're going to change, things that you're going to implement over the next few months. So you're going to make this year the year that you're going to get your period back. So without further ado, let's start with a belief number one, your limiting beliefs. The limiting beliefs sounds a lot like, I'm not going to be able to recover my period. It's happening to other people, but it's not happening to me. I do not deserve to get a coach or to get a nutritionist or to get a doctor to help me out, because the reality is that I know the things. It's just that I find it really hard to implement them. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to stop training. I'm not going to be able to eat more food. I'm going to look awful if I gain weight. Can you see how these limiting beliefs are not only impacting your ability to recover your period and to really stick to this journey, but they are also impacting your narrative, the way that you look at yourself, the way that you present yourself to the outside world. And if you live your life with that belief that you're not going to be able to recover your period, that gaining weight is something to be afraid of, that you cannot invest in yourself in order to feel supported, to be kept accountable, to really receive the right guidance so that you can get your period back and get pregnant as soon as possible, then it's going to be a really long road made of roadblocks and obstacles that you can really avoid it if you start shifting into a better mindset and if you start letting go some of the limiting beliefs. So something that you can actually tell yourself the next time that one of these beliefs arises, and let's pick as an example, I'm the only one that is not going to be able to get the period back. Something else that you can say is, I haven't been able to get my period back until now, but I'm still working towards period recovery. And in order to get my period back as soon as possible or within the next 3 months, this is something that I'm really going to focus on every single day, or maybe 3 times a week or twice a day, whatever that is for you. But step number one, making sure that you acknowledge your limiting beliefs, that you're aware of what do they sound like, where they present themselves, and also write down ways that you can actually let them go. And this video is not only about period recovery, but it's for life in general. Think about in your career, in your relationship with others, where do you have limiting beliefs? So for example, I'm not going to be able to get married with a man that respects me. I'm not going to be able to ask for a pay rise. All these limiting beliefs are basically hold you back to living the life that you deserve to live. So make sure that you're aware of them so that you can debunk them and break them down one by one for a more successful life. The second one is procrastinating. Procrastinating, once again, is very much connected with limiting beliefs, because if you feel that things are not going to change for you, if you feel that you're not going to be able to get your period back, or if you feel that you're not gonna get a pay rise, for example, you're gonna procrastinate on the actions that you actually need to take to get the results that you want. In terms of period recovery, it could be eating slightly differently, or can be exercising in a slightly different way, or can be finding a nutrition and dietetic clinician like I am that can really help you out in order to understand what your body needs in order to get the period back. And when it comes to career and other things, once again, it can be preventing you from writing down all the things that you have implemented during the year. So when the time comes that you are ready to ask for a pay rise, they are all written down, and you can actually show to your boss, manager, or whomever how much you have changed within the company, how much you have supported the company over the past few weeks and months. So procrastination is really not helpful if you want to see changes this year. So just because changing things all at once, it's a little bit overwhelming, simply write down one thing that you are sick of procrastinating. For me, for the longest time, was going to the gym, believe it or not, because after I got my period back, after I got my kids, I felt really resistance in terms of showing people my new body, how my body had changed. I felt very weak. I was dealing with lots of pain. Some of it was chronic. And so going to the gym was that step of, I'm not sure if I can actually do it. I'm not sure if I'm ready to get out of my comfort zone. And as soon as I allow myself to get to the level to go to the gym and actually enjoy the experience, I started to get more self-confident, more stronger in my body. And I know now that I am supporting my bones much more than I was doing back in the past. But procrastination was really a demon at that time, because I could have started with my gym training 2 years before I actually decided to sign up for a gym membership. And I'm so glad that I did, but it took me a long time because I was letting my negative beliefs, my limiting beliefs, really talking me down. So once again, be aware of your limiting beliefs and stop procrastinating. Just pick one thing that you don't want to procrastinate any longer. And maybe for you, it's exactly the opposite. Maybe for you is stop it and gym membership. And I give you my full permission to actually send them an email right now while you're listening to this video. Title it, I would like to pause my gym membership for the next 2 months so that I can restore my period. And maybe just put so I can restore my periods, not in the email, but just in your brain. So the brain is going to suck in that very important information that for you, it's really fundamental to get your period back. And it's going to focus on making sure that you take actions and do that. The third things that I really would like to discuss with you today is letting go of unresourceful behaviors. So unresourceful behaviors, oh my goodness, it's such a mouthful for me. Could be, for example, waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning to exercise. It could be skipping breakfast until 10 o'clock in the morning. It could be having 3 coffees every single day because you're feeling constantly tired. It could also be avoiding getting some blood work done and really find out what the root cause of your missing period. So there are so many unresourceful behaviors that we are engaging in our day-to-day because they are part of our default settings. So make sure that you know what the unresourceful behaviors are. And if you're not very clear of what they look like, what they sound like to you, just spend this next few days just paying attention and write them down. And as soon as they come up, even if it's going to be uncomfortable for you to admit it, just simply write it down in a piece of paper. So for example, it could be going to sleep at 12 o'clock instead of trying to go to sleep at 10 o'clock, because you may know by now that your best, more rechargeful sleep is between 10 p.m. and 1 to 2 a.m. So making sure that you go to sleep at a decent time and making sure that you have breakfast within that hour before getting up. So what is it for you? What are those behaviors? And just see where you can flip them. So for example, if you now have a knowledge that going to sleep at 12 o'clock at night is not really helpful if you want to feel recharged without brain fog, and if you want to have the energy the next day, see how you can reverse engineer it. So maybe tonight you could go to sleep at 11:30 instead of 12 o'clock, and then the following night could be 11:20 and then 11:15 until you manage to move the clock back to 10 o'clock in at nighttime. See what those behaviors are for you and be really honest with yourself. This is a moment to be truthful, because ultimately we're talking about your life and how you can change it, and that's the way to go, woman. So don't be afraid. Don't hold yourself back, because sometimes we are our worst enemy. And even though you can seek all the guidance that you can. So for example, if you are working with me, I will be the first one to let you know which kind of your behaviors are pretty unresourceful at this point. Then it's still going to be completely up to you to decide if you're going to be changing them or not. Tip number 4 is to stop people pleasing. If you don't have a period, if you're coming from a past history of restrictive behaviors around training, if you are overtraining, restrictive behaviors around food, chances are that you're a people pleaser and that your self-esteem is really much connected with what people think of you, the type of compliments that you get, the kind of reassurance that you get from peers, maybe partner, maybe siblings, maybe parents. So it's really the time for you to stop people pleasing and start pleasing yourself. And I honestly could start a new video on this where we are gonna really dive deep into self-compassion and how to give yourself grace. But for now, I really would like to get to the nitty-gritty of thinking to stop people pleasing. People pleasing means saying yes when your heart, your gut, your everything is just screaming, absolutely no, I don't want to do that. Or when you get invited to a place and the first thing that comes to your mind is, oh, it's gonna be so late by the time that I go home and I'm gonna be so tired the next day. I should say no, but I cannot let this person down. So this is another time where you're really people pleasing and you're not listening to yourself. So this is the year where you can change things around, allow yourself to stop pleasing people around you and start pleasing yourself. How good is that? Tip number 5, let go on negativity. And when I say negativity, it's negative talks, toxic relationship, toxic narratives. So for example, when you look at yourself in the mirror and you make a comment like, my belly is disgusting, that's definitely a toxic conversations that you have with yourself. Or maybe toxic relationship are the relationships that really drags you down. And we all know have that friend that we really connect us so incredibly much in the past, but now whenever we see that friend, we just hold our breath. We can't be our true self, and we leave the conversation feeling quite down and definitely not uplifted. So that's a toxic relationship that I really would encourage you to let go. Toxic conversations like making comments on people's body, making comments on people's finances, especially when you don't know what's going on in their life, making negative comments towards your partner, even when you could have a much more meaningful conversation. And also let go of toxins in general, toxic products. So for example, sometimes we buy things that have 25 ingredients, even though the thing that we're actually buying is as small as our little finger and it contains 25 ingredients. Or sometimes we go for a treatment and we put so many masks and creams and stuff on ourselves that it's really toxic for our lovely hormones. So this video is all about supporting yourself, your mindset, and your hormones and vitality and fertility in the future. So I really definitely need to write down all I need to mention to let go of all the toxic environment as well. And a toxic environment can be made by people, can be made by the things that we consume every day, can be made by the language that we have acquired. So just really notice where the toxicity is coming from and see if you can let that go. See if you can change it this year, because if you allow yourself to do so, you're going to notice a major shift within a very short time frame. Something else that is very much connected with toxicity is to let go of fearful media. The fearful media can be, for example, the crime podcast, crime books, watching the news, because all these things are going to keep you stuck in a state of flight and fear response. And if you know anything about how we can recover from HA, you may know that we really need to shift away from feeling fearful, and we need to start making sure that our body feels safe. So in order to do so, I would really encourage you to let go all the things that are deemed as horror in your life, okay? So one thing, as I mentioned before, can be the crime podcast, crime investigations, crime documentaries on the TV. And maybe you're looking at me and thinking, but Claudia, I really love them and they're definitely not impacting my life. The reality is, though, that if you are watching too many, if you're listening to too many crime podcasts, at some point you're gonna start dreaming about it. At some point you're gonna walk down a pitch black street in your neighborhood and you're gonna start having really strange thoughts and you're gonna activate that sympathetic nervous system. Chances are that you're gonna start looking at the world from a different lens, and instead of the lens of abundance, you're going to start noticing scarcity. So even though that crime podcast, even though that crime TV show, you don't feel that it's actually making a big impact in your daily life, it can actually be impacting your mindset and your beliefs and your actions much more than you believe. Same thing goes with the news. I had to stop watching news when I had my first baby because everything was so dreadful and so horrific. I didn't want to think all the time that I brought up a baby in such a horrific environment. So right now, if I have to focus on something, I just focus on the beauty that is surrounding me. So for example, all the flowers that I see when I go for a walk in the morning. And if you're following me on my Instagram page, ha.fertility.nutritionist, you may have noticed that I post lots of flowers simply because they are so beautiful and they remind me of the power of nature. They remind me of how little my problems are. And I truly deeply believe that if there is a problem that I should be aware of, that I need to be aware of, like COVID, for example, that news comes to you. That news, you don't have to watch it on TV. You don't have to listen to it on a podcast. You actually, that news is gonna find a way inside your house. And so you just need to worry about yourself right now, okay? Unless you're working in an environment where you have to be on top of politics and so on and so forth. But if that's available to you, just let go of all the things that are really putting you in a state of fight and flight. Something else that is very close to horror media, it's comparing yourself. And that's when sometimes Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, they're not really your best friend, because if you spend too much time doom scrolling, and if that's preventing you from going to sleep at a decent time at night, if you find yourself being really activated when you check a post on Instagram, if you find yourself comparing your current life with your past life or with the life of someone that you don't know or someone that you even know, whenever you jump on that social media platform, my encouragement for you is to, one, let it go if that's available to you. And if you have a business like mine that it's really thrive on social media, something that you can actually do is just making sure that you set boundaries and you put a time limit to when to how much time you spend on that particular social media platform. Ultimately, it's always your choice, and you don't have to be on social medias. You don't have to be on social media daily. And if that's something that you enjoy, just make sure that your feed and all the posts that you're seeing daily are really supporting your recovery journey, are supporting your vitality, are supporting your health, and they're not gonna drag you down. Tip number eight, just making sure that you're aware of your unhealthy coping mechanism. So what do I mean by that? Let's say that you get pretty anxious while you're at work, you get into a fight with your boss, and the next thing that you do, because it's approximately lunchtime, you decide to skip a meal because you are too anxious. Otherwise, you have a very tough day at work, you have a big meal at night, you feel extremely guilty for allowing yourself to enjoy some extra food. And the next thing that you do, you just keep on getting more food simply because you have this mentality of, oh, well, I got to this point, might as well really splurge tonight. And then you wake up the next day and you decide to compensate. So those unhealthy coping mechanism needs to change. And so easy to say, right? They need to change. You have to stop your unhealthy coping mechanism. Well, the reality is that you can start from step number one, which is actually understanding why they're coming in your life and what they are. More than anything, really understand what these coping mechanisms are, understand which one of your coping mechanisms are healthy versus unhealthy, see which one is really bothering you, see why they're still part of your life, and start thinking of how you can change them, how you can implement them, how you can tweak them slightly so they're going to be more helpful in the short and long term. Now, number 9, I want to discuss a strong mindset shift that I encourage you to make this year, which is around the fear of change. Fear of change is not only about the fear of gaining weight, which is a very big one for women that are trying to restore their period, but it's fear of changing their training routine, fear of changing their food behaviors, fear of changing their body, fear of how the other people are going to perceive them, fear of how they're going to perceive themselves, fear of just being a different person. But the reality is that if you are where you are right now and you want to change, it's impossible to change if you stay stuck in the same place, in the same location that brought you to this place. So you need to change your thoughts. You need to change your behaviors. You need to change your actions. You need to change your narrative. You need to change your mindset. And when I say you need to, it's just you need to if you want to see changes at the end of this year. And the reality is that even though it sounds pretty overwhelming because there may be a few things that you would like to change and you don't know where to start from, just pick one. Pick one that it's gonna really interact with others in a domino effect. Just pick one thing that you are really done with, that you know that it's unresourceful, that you know that it's unhealthy, and maybe just write it down and just be honest with yourself when you write it down and say, yes, this is a coping mechanism that is not really serving me anymore. And it's connected to this negative talk that I have with myself every single day, that it's also connected with a limiting belief of mine. And after you have done this work, then ask yourself, what can I change? What can I do? How can I modify that? How can I move forward? And last but not least, stop thinking that you have to do it on your own. I had the most beautiful conversation yesterday with a fantastic woman. And towards the end, she said, but I feel that I have to do this on my own because I've relied on others for all my life. And it's really now time to step into my power. And to that, I say, we are meant to be in a community. We were never meant to solve our problems by ourselves. We have been told a lie over the past few years that we need to stay inside our little houses with our little family. We're lucky to have one. Do not mention our problem, do not ask for support, do not ask for help. Otherwise, it means that we are going to bother someone else's. That is the biggest lie that I've ever heard. As human society, we have evolved through the years by sticking to our community. And when we decided to really separate and go on our own journey, that's where people started to get really depressed, really anxious, really sick. We are not meant to do things on our own. We're not meant to not seek for help when we need it. We are not meant to ask for help when we feel confused, overwhelmed, and we would thrive if someone actually put their hands up and said, hey, I can fix this. I can help you really sort this one out. So my invitation for you today is to allow yourself to change and allow yourself to ask for help, ask for guidance, accountability, support, proven steps that you can follow. And that could maybe involve getting your period back, having regular cycles, getting you baby ready, getting you pregnant, making sure that you have a decent pregnancy, making sure that you thrive during your pregnancy. Or maybe it's all about making sure that you know how to shift from a place of burnout and anxiety and lack of energy to a place of vitality. I've done this with hundreds of women right now, hundreds of babies have been born because of me. Thousands of women have restored their cycle because of the work that we have done together. So don't be the unicorn that is going to be too afraid to ask for help when realistically speaking, that's how you're going to get better in a shorter amount of time. Not only that, we're going to see blind spots that you didn't even know that you had. You're going to make changes in a more meaningful way, and you're not going to throw spaghetti on the wall. You're actually going to make changes that are really going to help you to step into that empowered version of yourself. So I hope that you have enjoyed this video. If you feel called to join the Period Comeback Protocol, just make sure that you click on the link below, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.